Hello, welcome to the webinar on longitudinal data for ethnicity and migration research in the UK. I'm Alita Nandi and I will first talk about understanding society, and then we'll have 5 minutes for question and answer. And then Emla Fitzsimmons will take over and she'll talk about the Millennium Cohort Study, and then we'll have a final session on question and answers at the end. So first I will give a brief overview of the survey Understanding Society and then focus on the data relevant for ethnicity and migration related research. The survey started in 2009-2010 with a sample of around 30,000 households living in the UK. The technical name of the study is the UK Household Longitudinal Study. As the name suggests, the sample is representative of the UK and the study has a household focus. When I say household focus, what I mean is that the information is collected from the entire household, who provide the contextual information for individual level analysis. For example, does living in a single earner household increase your risk of being poor? Now, it is also a longitudinal survey. By this, we mean the same set of individuals are interviewed every year and asked a core set of questions each time. This allows us to see how their lives change over time. For example, we can see whether some people are persistently poor year in, year out. You can also find out what causes people to move out of or into poverty. With Understanding Society, we also provide geographical locators, and this helps in linking this data to geographical level data, such as the census, area level deprivation, local unemployment rates, and so on. But what happens when individuals move? So we did say we interview people every year, but when people move because they have moved into a new household with their partner, or because they have broken up with their partner and moved out, or they have found a new job and moved into a different city, even in these situations, we would follow them as long as they are living in the UK. But there are certain exceptions. So we don't follow them if they move into institutions where it is difficult to get access to, for example, prisons. But what happens when individuals move into the households of the core sample? In that case, we do interview these new household members, but only as long as they are living with the core sample members. So to sum up, we have a core sample and we follow them as they move in and around the UK, but we don't follow them if they move outside UK. And we only interview people who live in this household as long as they're living with the core sample members. So the next question is, who provides all the information that we collect and is provided to you in these data files? First, any adult who answers the door is asked about who lives in the household, their names, and some basic information about the household members' age, sex, marital status, and employment status. So this is noted down on the household and enumeration grid. At this point, the interviewer also asks about the relationship of every household member to every other household member. Once we know who lives in the household, we find out who knows about the household. Generally, this is the person who owns or rents the dwelling. And in case there are more than one person, we generally go for the eldest of those people. Now, this person then answers questions from the household questionnaire, which includes questions on household expenditure, consumer durables, how many bedrooms there are in the household, basically information about the household, because we don't want to ask the same questions about the household from every household member. Then the interviewer asks anyone in the household who is 16 years or older to participate in the adult individual questionnaire. Now, this is where bulk of the information comes from. So we consider anyone who is 16 years or above as an adult for interview purposes. They're also asked to fill in a short questionnaire by themselves. These are generally sensitive questions that you may not feel comfortable answering in front of a stranger or the interviewer. So this is called the self-completion questionnaire. And these are questions on mental health, how satisfied you are with your life, and so on. In a few cases, someone may nominate their spouse or adult children to answer questions on their behalf because they are ill or very busy. Such interviews are known as proxy questionnaires. These questionnaires are generally shorter than the adult individual questionnaire that I just talked about. And they include only factual information. That is the type of information that someone close to you would know about you. These do not include subjective questions such as questions on your attitudes and feelings. All 10 to 15-year-olds are also asked to fill in a separate questionnaire by themselves. This is referred to as the youth questionnaire. And this has questions that are relevant for understanding the lives and experiences of young people, such as how often they use the computer, how often they use social media, what kind of cultural activities they participate in, do they like their friends, their siblings, their school, have they experienced bullying, and so on. Now, for 0 to 9-year-old children in the household, we do not directly interview them, but we do collect some information about them from their parents or guardians. This is also a multi-topic survey to allow research on different aspects of people's lives. So along with information on ethnicity, we ask questions on education, employment, family and the household, health behaviors, well-being, income, housing, wealth, expenditure and deprivation, and different questions on attitudes, values, and beliefs. So the next point is, why is this study such a valuable resource for ethnicity-related research? So first, in addition to the nationally representative sample of 26,000 households, which we refer to as the general population sample or the GPS, an additional sample of around 4,000 households where at least one individual in that household was from an ethnic minority background was added in 2009-2010. This is referred to as the ethnic minority boost sample or the EMBS. Then 6 years later, another such oversample or boost sample was added. The target here was to include ethnic minority individuals and immigrants. This is referred to as the immigrant and ethnic minority boost sample. This had approximately 2,900 households. As immigrants and ethnic minorities make up around 15 to 20% of the national population, the sample sizes in any nationally representative sample, even a large one like Understanding Society, will not be large enough to allow statistical analysis of these groups separately. Hence the need for oversampling of these groups. Now these boost samples were selected not from the whole of the UK, but areas in Great Britain where the proportion of ethnic minority groups and immigrants was very high. This allowed us to keep costs low. But this means that if you use only these boost samples by themselves, then your analysis will suffer from coverage error. That is, the estimates that you get will not be representative of all immigrants or ethnic minorities, but only those who live in these specific types of areas. As experiences and behaviors of individuals living in these high concentration areas are likely to be different, we advise against using these samples by themselves when you're doing your analysis. Always use all the available samples together. This is actually quite easy, as the data that we provide includes all the samples together. So unless you actively try to exclude specific samples, your analysis will by default include all the samples. A second reason why this study is good for this type of research is that ethnicity and migration is a core focus of this study. As a result, lots of questions that are relevant for this type of research was included. First, there was a whole range of questions to measure ethnocultural groups. So not only the census ethnic group question, but questions on own parents and grandparents' country of birth, their year of arrival, religious background, the main language spoken when they were children, religious affiliation, national identity, and so on. A third reason is that extra 5 minutes of question time was set aside for some questions that are relevant for ethnicity and migration research. For example, questions on harassment, discrimination, detailed migration history, ethnic identity, remittances, migration intentions, and so on. But for cost reasons and to reduce respondent burden, these questions were not asked of the whole sample. Rather, it was asked of the boost samples and a subsample of the general population sample to allow the comparative analysis. But remember, the boost samples were selected from areas of high ethnic minority concentration. So only analyzing ethnic minorities in these samples will not be representative of all ethnic minorities. So these questions were also asked of ethnic minorities in the general population sample who were living in low ethnic minority concentration areas. To see a list of these extra 5-minute questions, you can follow this link and it'll give you all the questions. I'll soon talk about the ethnicity and migration user guide. This list of questions is also available in there. So what is the ethnic composition of the sample across the waves? Here you can see across the 8 waves, which is currently the 8 waves of data have been released. And you can see that for what proportion of the sample in each wave includes people from these ethnic backgrounds. So this figure shows the numbers for residents of England. And this one shows for all the different countries. And as expected, most ethnic minorities live in England. You can see it here. So before you embark on your research, you might want to know, depending on your research question, how many sample members you might expect in your analysis. So here is the actual numbers of adult interviews by ethnic group across waves. And here is a similar figure for immigrants and non-immigrants. So those are born in the UK and born outside the UK. As you can see in wave 6, because we added the immigrant and ethnic minority boost sample, there was an additional increase in the number of immigrants in that year. Now, to know more about doing ethnicity and migration research using this study, you can refer to this website. You can see the link here. This gives you a lot of basic information that you would need, which I don't have time to cover in this short 20 minutes. And you can also look at the user guide, and that has much more detailed information about the questions, the sample design, which weights to use, and so on. So while the ethnicity and migration research user guide focuses on researchers who want to do this type of research, you may also want to refer to the main user guide, which is about the whole sample and the sample design, weights, how the income was imputed, and so on. You can also search through our online documentation by clicking this link here to see what variables are included in the data files, the frequency of those variables, which is quite useful before you actually jump into doing the research. You might want to know how many cases there would be for your specific research question. You can do a similar search using our questionnaires. So all the questionnaires are available as PDF files, and you can search through the questionnaires to see the exact questions that were asked every year. There's quite a lot of research that has already been done using this data. So to know that, you can go to the publications page. You can click on this link here. And it allows you to search on keywords. So you can search on terms like ethnicity, immigration, ethnic groups, and so on. And you'll get a list of relevant research already conducted using the data. Here is an example of the research papers that are already out there when I searched on the term ethnicity. So when you go through the publication list, you will see that many different outcomes have been examined by researchers to see how these differ across ethnic groups and generations. So such as unemployment patterns and unemployment dynamics, political behaviors and identities, expectations and attitudes, and health and well-being. So I just wanted to give you an overview of the different types of research that have been done and can be done using this data. But in order to use the data, you would have to go to our website and learn a bit more about the survey and its design and so on. So there is a getting started user guide